Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something I think pretty much all of us have felt at some point, that hollow, kind of stuck feeling that just seems to come with modern life. To figure out how to fix it, we're going to lean on some absolutely incredible science-backed insights from Harvard expert and behavioral scientist Arthur C. Brooks. So let's jump right in.
We are starting with the big one, the ultimate, almost impossible to answer question: what is the meaning of life? I know, it sounds like a total philosophical cliché, but Brooks actually points out that the inability to answer this, like the inability to articulate the meaning of your own life, is literally the #1 predictor of modern depression and anxiety, if you leave it unanswered. So we've got to figure out how to answer it, right?
Here's our roadmap for today. First, the epidemic of emptiness. Then, the left versus right brain. Third, navigating the liminal space. Fourth, the 6 pillars of meaning. And finally, 3 rules for love.
All right, part 1, the epidemic of emptiness. We're looking at the modern crisis of loneliness. So modern technology and our whole hustle culture, they've created a really profound crisis. We're living in this era where achievement culture has just completely overshadowed relationship culture. To put that into perspective, think about this crazy ratio. The average child today spends 4 to 7 hours a day staring at screens. But how much time are they in nature? 4 to 7 minutes. 4 to 7 minutes a day. We're essentially living our entire lives through our devices, and because of that, we're starving ourselves of the deeply human, face-to-face connections that our brains have evolved to need over the last 250,000 years. Moving on to Section 2, the left versus right brain and the actual neuroscience of feeling stuck. If we want to understand why we feel so stuck, we really need to look at how our brains divide up work. Your left brain? That's the what and the how. It loves complicated tasks. Think about fixing a toaster or coding an app. It absolutely thrives on technology. But the right brain, on the other hand, handles the why. It's all about processing complex mysteries that you can't just solve, things you have to actually live, like romantic love, spirituality, or a sense of meaning. And here is the real kicker. Modern life traps us doing the left brain's complicated tasks, which completely starves our right brain's deep need for complex meaning. Okay, Section 3, navigating the liminal space, the transition of intelligence. So how do we actually transition out of that stuck feeling? Well, we have to embrace what's called liminality. Okay, picture a molting lobster. When a lobster needs to grow, it has to shed its hard protective shell and enter this really soft, super vulnerable in-between phase. It is an incredibly scary and uncomfortable time for the lobster. But that scary in-between phase, that is precisely where maximum personal growth occurs. You literally cannot grow without it. So we have to learn to lean into that discomfort instead of constantly fighting it.
Let's look at Section 4, the 6 pillars of meaning, essentially our blueprint for happiness.
Brooks outlines 6 daily practices we can all engage in to reactivate that right brain and reconnect with our ancient human roots. We need to ask deep questions, fall in love, actually embrace suffering as a teacher, seek transcendence, find our true calling, and experience true beauty. Let's break a few of these down because they are fascinating. Take that first pillar. There's this really incredible insight about Coco the gorilla. She famously learned 1,000 words in sign language, right? But you know what she never, ever did? She never asked a single question. Asking those unanswerable why questions is uniquely human. It's literally what sets us apart from even the smartest primates. So, try this. Instead of just making small talk at your next dinner party, ask someone a deep question. Ask them for what would you happily give your life right now. Boom. That is exactly how you activate the right brain.
Moving to the second pillar, falling in love. It is absolutely vital that we prioritize in-person connection over algorithms. Now, obviously, a massive 62% of long-term relationships these days start on dating apps. But Brooks warns us that when we try to solve the complex mystery of love using a left-brain algorithm, we often just end up feeling more lonely.
True.
Lasting connection means we have to prioritize genuine, face-to-face time.
Then there's the third pillar, and Brooks offers this pretty radical reframe to his Harvard students. He reminds us that our modern obsession with avoiding all pain, it's a complete fallacy. Normal suffering is actually a profound teacher. Things like sadness and anxiety, they aren't always pathological, right? They are inevitable parts of the human experience that we just have to sit with and learn from. The final three pillars really require us to look outward. We have to seek transcendence, whether that's standing in awe of nature or serving others, just to escape the boring everyday psychodrama of focusing purely on ourselves. We also need to realize that our calling isn't just our job. It heavily includes our relationships. And finally, we have to experience true beauty directly. Seriously, put the phone down. When you experience a gorgeous sunset through a camera lens, you aren't actually experiencing beauty. You're just creating a left brain simulation of it.
Okay, moving to our final section, number 5, 3 rules for love. How to connect in a disconnected world.
When it comes to romantic connections, we have to remember that marriage is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. And biology plays a massive role here. Get this, women biologically need 3 times as much oxytocin, the love and bonding molecule, as men do. And for women, that oxytocin is heavily fueled by direct eye contact. Meanwhile, men biologically desperately need physical touch to feel bonded. So the takeaway, always be touching and always make eye contact when you speak.
Brooks gives us 3 key steps to transition a relationship from that youthful startup phase into a lifelong commitment. First, rule out alternatives. You gotta slap the handcuffs on and commit fully. Second, stay positive. Don't just use your partner as a trash compactor for all the garbage of your day. And third, grow in spirit together. You want to literally fuse your right brains, maybe through shared meditation or reading or prayer.
Now, the advice for that second step, staying positive, is wildly counterintuitive. Brooks actually suggests you should disregard negative feelings more in your spouse. Wait, what? Yeah, don't overabsorb your partner's bad moods. If they come home bummed out and you instantly let yourself become bummed out, you just create this totally negative downward spiral. Sometimes you just gotta let them be grumpy without taking it on yourself.
And beyond romance, overcoming loneliness means putting in the hard work to cultivate friendships. But not just any friends. We all have functional, career-based, deal friends, right? The people we network with. But to truly find meaning, you must cultivate real friends. These are essentially people who are completely, utterly useless to your career. I mean that in the best way. They are deeply loving people who simply care about you without needing anything in return.
Ultimately, Arthur Brooks defines love not just as a fleeting feeling, but as the active, intentional choice to will the good of someone else. That is the true foundation of happiness. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty provocative question to chew on today. Who are you doing this for? Are you willing the good of another person right now? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I genuinely hope you start building those pillars of meaning in your own life today.